and slapped it 6 times with his hand, and with more waste than I thought were in him. Then he says, "You're a good fellow, but you don't understand. Good night. Go along. Magsman, the little man will now walk 3 times round the carawan and retire behind the curtain." The last I see of him on that occasion was his trying, on the extremest verge of insensibility, to climb up the stairs one by one with his hands and knees. They'd have been much too steep for him if he'd been sober, but he wouldn't be helped. It warn't long after that I read in a newspaper of Mr. Chops's being presented at court. It was printed, "It will be recollected," and I've noticed in my life that it is sure to be printed that it will be recollected, whenever it won't, that Mr. Chops is the individual of small stature, whose brilliant success in the last State Lottery attracted so much attention. Well, I says to myself, such is life. He has been and done it in earnest at last. He has astonished George the Fourth. On account of which I had that canvas new painted, him with a bag of money in his hand, a-presenting it to George the Fourth, and a lady in ostrich feathers falling in love with him in a bagwig, sword, and buckles correct. I took the house, as is the subject of present inquiries, though not the honour of being acquainted, and I run Magsman's amusements in it 13 months, sometimes one thing, sometimes another, sometimes nothing particular, but always all the canvases outside. One night, when we had played the last company out, which was a shy company, through its raining heavens hard, I was taking a pipe in the one pair back along with the young man with the toes, which I had taken on for a month, though he never drawed except on paper, and I heard a kicking at the street door. "Hallo," I says to the young man, "what's up?" He rubs his eyebrows with his toes, and he says, "I can't imagine, Mr. Magsman," which he never could imagine nothing, and was monotonous company. The noise not leaving off, I laid down my pipe, and I took up a candle, and I went down and opened the door. I looked out into the street, but nothing could I see, and nothing was I aware of until I turned round quick, because some creetur run between my legs into the passage. There was Mr. Chops. "Magsman," he says, "take me on the old terms, and you've got me. If it's done, say done." I was all of amaze, but I said, "Done, sir." "Done to you, done, and double done," says he. "Have you got a bit of supper in the house?" Bearing in mind them sparkling warieties of foreign drains as we guzzled away in Pall Mall, I was ashamed to offer him cold sausages and gin and water, but he took 'em both and took 'em free, having a chair for his table, and sitting down at it on a stool like old times. I all of amaze all the while. It was arter he had made a clean sweep of the sausages, beef, and to the best of my calculations 2 pound and a quarter, that the wisdom as was in that little man began to come out of him like prespiration. "Magsman," he says, "look upon me. You see afore you one as both gone into society and come out." "Oh, you are out of it, Mr. Chops. How did you get out, sir?" "Sold out," says he. You never saw the like of the wisdom as his head expressed when he made use of them 2 words. "My friend Magsman, I'll impart to you a discovery I've made. It's wallable. It's cost £12,500. It may do you good in life. The secret of this matter is, that it ain't so much that a person goes into society, as that society goes into a person." Not exactly keeping up with his meaning, I shook my head, put on a deep look and said, "You're right there, Mr. Chops." "Magsman," he says, twitching me by the leg, "Society has gone into me to the tune of every penny of my property." I felt that I went pale, and though naturally a bold speaker, I couldn't hardly say, "Where's Normandy?" "Bolted, with the plate," said Mr. Chops. "And t'other one?" meaning him as formerly wore the bishop's mitre. "Bolted with the jewels," said Mr. Chops. I sat down and looked at him, and he stood up and looked at me. "Magsman," he says, and he seemed to myself to get wiser as he got hoarser, "Society, taken in the lump, is all dwarfs. At the Court of St. James's they was all a-doing my old business, all a-going 3 times round the Carawan in the hold court suits and properties. Elsewheres they was most of 'em ringing their little bells out of make-believes. Everywheres the sarser was a-going round. Magsman, the sarser is the uniwersal institution." I perceived, you understand, that he was soured by his misfortunes, and I felt for Mr. Chops. "As to fat ladies," he says, giving his head a tremendous one against the wall, "there's lots of them in society, and worse than the original. Hers was a outrage upon taste, simply a outrage upon taste, awakening contempt, carrying its own punishment in the form of a Indian." Here he give himself another tremendious one. "But there's, Magsman, there's his mercenary outrages. Laying cashmere shawls, buy bracelets, strew 'em and a lot of handsome fans and things about your rooms, let it be known that you give away like water to all as come to admire, and the fat ladies that don't exhibit for so much down upon the drum will come from all the points of the compass to flock about you, whatever you are. They'll drill holes in your heart, Magsman, like a cullender. And when you've no more left to give, they'll laugh at you to your face, and leave you to have your bones picked dry by vultures, like the dead wild ass of the prairies that you deserve to be." Here he give himself the most tremendious one of all, and dropped. I thought he was gone. His head was so heavy, and he knocked it so hard, and he fell so stony, and the sassagerial disturbance in him must have been so immense, that I thought he was gone. But he soon come round with care, and he sat up on the floor, and he said to me, with wisdom coming out of his eyes if ever it come, "Magsman, the most material difference between the 2 states of existence through which your unhappy friend has passed." He reached out his poor little hand, and his tears dropped down on the mustachio, which it was a credit to him to have done his best to grow, but it is not in mortals to command success. "The difference this: when I was out of society, I was paid light for being seen. When I went into society, I paid heavy for being seen. I prefer the former, even if I wasn't forced upon it. Give me out through the trumpet in the hold way to-morrow." Arter that he slid into the line again as easy as if he'd been iled all over. But the organ was kept from him, and no allusions was ever made, when a company was in, to his property. He got wiser every day. His views of society and the public was luminous, bewildering, awful, and his head got bigger and bigger as his wisdom expanded.